Welcome to the Murders at Karlov Manor rules video. My name is Nelson.
And I'm Serge. Let's go over the new and returning mechanics. In a world of murder and mystery, things are not what they seem. Or are they? Face down cards are back with a twist! It's new mechanics, disguise and cloak. Disguise cost means you may cast this card face down for 3 as a 2/2 creature with ward 2. Turn it face up at any time for its disguise cost. When casting a face down spell, it has no mana cost and a mana value of 0. Put it on the stack face down so no other player knows what it is. This is an alternative cost. The resulting creature is a 2/2 creature with ward 2 that has no name, mana cost, or creature types. Both the spell and the resulting creature are colorless and have a mana value of 0. Other effects that apply to the spell or creature can still grant it any characteristics it doesn't have, or change the characteristics it does have. Anytime you have priority, you may turn the face down creature face up by revealing its disguise cost and paying that cost. This is a special action. It doesn't use the stack and can't be responded to. Only a face down permanent can be turned face up this way, a face down spell cannot. To cloak a card, put it onto the battlefield face down. Just like disguise, it also becomes a 2/2 face down creature card with ward 2, no name, mana cost, or creature types. It's colorless and has a mana value of 0. Anytime you have priority, you can turn a cloaked permanent you control face up by revealing that it's a creature card and paying its mana cost. This is a special action, it doesn't use the stack and can't be responded to. If a cloaked creature has disguise or morph, you may also turn it face up by paying its disguise or morph cost. General notes on face down cards. You must ensure that your face down spells and permanents can be easily differentiated from each other. You're not allowed to mix up the cards on the battlefield to confuse other players. The order in which they entered the battlefield should remain clear, as well as what ability caused them to be face down. If a face down spell leaves the stack and goes to any zone other than the battlefield, if it was countered for example, you must reveal it. Similarly, if a face down permanent leaves the battlefield, you must reveal it. You must also reveal all face down spells and permanents you control if you leave the game or the game ends.
What if I forget which of my face down cards are which?
No worries. At any time, you can look at a face down card you control. However, you can't look at face down cards you don't control unless an effect allows you to do so.
What happens if a face down creature loses its abilities?
Great question. If it has disguise, it can't be turned face up because it no longer has the disguise ability that allows it to be turned face up. However, a cloaked creature can still be turned face up after it loses its abilities if it's a creature card.
Oh, neat. Okay, next question. Do I get ETB value when I turn a creature face up?
Turning a permanent face up doesn't cause any ETB abilities to trigger because nothing ETB'd. It entered a while ago, just sneakily.
Okay, last question. Will my opponent's pacifism fall off when I turn my creature face up?
Unfortunately, no. Turning a permanent face up doesn't change it. Spells and abilities will still be targeting it, auras and equipment will stay attached, unless the legality changes, and counters remain, and it also doesn't change if it's tapped or untapped.
Fair. Ravnica is chock full of unsolved cases, and solving these mysteries can be helpful for the victims and your board state. Each case has 2 special keyword abilities: to solve and solved. To solve, condition, means at the beginning of your end step, if you meet the condition and this case is not solved, it becomes solved. Solved is a state. A case is either solved or it isn't. Once a case becomes solved, it stays solved until it leaves the battlefield. Cases don't lose their other abilities when they become solved. To solve abilities will check for their condition twice, once when the ability would trigger, and once when it resolves. If the condition isn't true at the beginning of your end step, the ability won't trigger at all. If the condition isn't true when the ability resolves, the case won't become solved. The meaning of solved differs based on what type of ability follows it. Some cases have triggered abilities. Triggered abilities use the words when, whenever, or at. Other cases have static abilities, such as long as this case is solved, static ability. Static abilities are written as statements, such as, creatures you control get +1/+1. If you somehow try to copy a case, please know that being solved is not a copyable value. If you copy a solved case, you'll have to solve it all over again.
We're starting to put together a compelling case, but words alone aren't enough to make this stick. Time to head out and collect evidence. Collect evidence N means exile cards with a total mana value N or greater from your graveyard. If you can't exile enough cards to meet or exceed the required mana value, you can't choose to collect evidence at all. Once you've announced that you're casting a spell where collecting evidence is part of the cost, players can't take actions until you're finished doing so. Notably, opponents can't try to remove cards from your graveyard to stop you from collecting evidence.
A thorough investigation is sure to generate a long list of suspects, but which one is guilty? Hard to tell, but probably the person who's going on a rampage. When an effect suspects a creature, it becomes suspected. It gains menace and this creature can't block for as long as it's suspected. It stays suspected until it leaves the battlefield or another effect causes it to no longer be suspected. There's no limit to the number of creatures that can be suspected simultaneously. Suspecting a new creature doesn't cause other creatures to stop being suspected. If a face-down permanent is suspected, it will still be suspected when it's turned face-up. If a suspected creature loses all abilities, it will lose menace and this creature can't block. But it won't stop being suspected. If a creature is already suspected, suspecting it again won't have any effect. Being suspected isn't a copyable value. If a permanent becomes a copy of a suspected creature, it won't be suspected.
Our hard work is paying off. I've found a clue. Investigate is an ability that creates a clue token. A clue is an artifact token that reads, pay 2 and sacrifice this artifact to draw a card. Some spells and abilities that investigate may require targets. If each target chosen is an illegal target as that spell or ability tries to resolve, it won't resolve, and you won't create any clue tokens. Clue is an artifact type. Even though it appears on some cards with other permanent types, it's never a creature type, a land type, or anything but an artifact type. Some abilities trigger whenever you sacrifice a clue. Those abilities trigger whenever you sacrifice a clue for any reason, not just to activate a clue's activated ability.
Each split card has 2 faces on it, and each face represents an individual spell you can cast. Hey, split cards are back! To cast a split card, choose one of its halves to cast. There's no way to cast both halves of any of the split cards featured in this set. Split cards have 2 card faces on a single card. The characteristics of the half you didn't cast are ignored while the spell is on the stack. Each split card is a single card. If you discard a split card, you discarded 1 card, not 2. If an effect counts the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard, cease and desist counts once, not twice. A split card's characteristics are a combination of its 2 halves while it's not on the stack. Cease and desist has a mana value of 8 while it is in your library. If an effect allows you to search your library for a card with mana value 4 or less, you can't find cease and desist. If an effect allows you to cast a spell with certain characteristics, consider only the characteristics of the half you're casting. For example, if an effect allows you to cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 2 or less from among cards in your graveyard, you could cast cease this way, but not desist.
That's it for the rules. Nelson's the killer. Thanks!
Thanks?